Hi everybody, and welcome to the Mount Saint Helens area in southwestern Washington. I'm just driving today, driving around Spirit Lake, driving to Windy Point Viewpoint, and just refamiliarizing myself with this area that I knew quite well 30 years ago, but I really haven't been up here since then. So we're just doing a little bit of reconnaissance in preparation for the Mike Eddy grant involving the Spirit Lake Pluton. But there's Mount Saint Helens, and Spirit Lake is just on the other side of the road. So let's introduce you to this area where the Spirit Lake Pluton is beautifully exposed. Thanks for joining us. Let's get started. All right, well, let's just do this in one little shot here. The Saint Helens area is impressive. Don't get me wrong, and there's trees that are still blown over in the direction that they were blasted down 34 years ago. But I have to say, since I haven't been here in 30 years, wait, 44 years ago the eruption was, okay. 30 years ago I was up here, and I remember part of my spiel to the groups that I used to take up here was, what's this place going to be like in 30 years? Isn't the blast zone going to be less and less impressive with each passing year with trees growing? And generally the answer is yes. The blast zone is not quite as lunar-like as it used to be, but all this incredible pumice from 1980 remains. Look, there's Whitey. So if you want a pumice collection, this is the place to come. There's no shortage. But I think I just want to cross the road here with you and introduce you to Spirit Lake. Oh, I don't know. Let's look at a map here quick first. So I'm in the vicinity of Windy Ridge, and technically I'm very close to this Upper Smith Creek. In fact, we were on this little trail, Donnybrook Viewpoint, and then looking down to Spirit Lake. And here's Mount Saint Helens with a horseshoe because there was a lateral blast to the north. I assume most of you know the basics of the Mount Saint Helens story from 1980. And US Highway 12 that I was talking about in the last video is up here off the map. So I came down from Randall on Forest Service Road 25 and then on to 99 to here. Maybe you've done that drive. So, I don't know. Some of these lavas up here, I didn't plant these, by the way, and it looks like there was a geology group. Maybe Jordan Carey had his group up here looking at these rocks. So let me zoom you in a little bit. Some of these lavas, without knowing it, I think you would say, okay, well, I guess these are lavas that came out of that. St. Helens, which is around the corner. But I don't think that's right. Because this Spirit Lake Pluton grant, what else we got? Yeah. Thank you, geology instructor, whoever was here. The landmark that the project is named after is right across the road. Very quiet morning. Thursday morning, late July. Nobody up here. It's like noon. I'm kind of surprised. Not complaining. So why is this lake, Spirit Lake, so famous? I think many of you know the answer. This lake existed before 1980, but this lake was dramatically affected by the Mount Saint Helens 1980 blast. And those logs have been hanging around on the surface of that lake since May 18th, 1980. So these are just some of the trees that were killed by the blast, uprooted, dumped into this lake, and then here they are just floating on the surface of the lake. But this is Spirit Lake, and even, I don't know where I'm not sure what I'm going to title this video, But many viewers to Mount Saint Helens, you're looking west, come up from Interstate 5, and they come towards the main visitor center over there, the David Johnston Visitor Center, Coldwater, and so on. But this is kind of approaching from the east. You know, I live in Ellensburg, so I'm more familiar with kind of approaching St. Helens from this. And it's a series of long, windy Forest Service roads, but they're paved. And it's a bit more low-key here on the northeast side of St. Helens. And so I think in this little video, I'm not sure, but I think in this little video, I'm just going to follow a field guide. In fact, I've got it in my pocket. Let's go over here. I've got a little field guide that I'm going to follow, and maybe we can stop at just a couple of outcrops and just get introduced to these outcrops that are tied to the Spirit Lake Pluton. So there was a Geological Society of America meeting in Seattle in 1994, and Russ Everts and Don Swanson wrote this field guide, and they took a bunch of geologists up here in October of 1994. And they introduced the field guide with a bunch of detail that I need to ask Mike Eddy, but I'm thinking maybe Mike Eddy was directly influenced by this field guide and gave him the idea perhaps to propose doing more work with the Spirit Lake Pluton, because there's a bunch of good stuff in here. I don't know if there's a digital copy of this. Anybody out there, can you find a digital copy of this thing? This is from a larger collection of field guides. The Swanson and Hagerud editors, Geologic Field Trips in the Pacific Northwest, 1994, Geological Society of America Annual Meeting. I'd like to share this with everybody because there's a lot of good stuff, including, like, I don't know, does Jeff Tepper know about the basalt of Kalama River? They talk about this being a major question mark. But just, again, setting up the field guide, Russ and Don are like, here's what the Spirit Lake Pluton looks like. Yeah, there's a known caldera, the Quartz Creek caldera, that I think is maybe tied to the Spirit Lake Pluton. And the point is, this road is driving right through the Spirit Lake Pluton, which I didn't know. You remember a month ago, before I knew about the acceptance of this proposal, I'd never even heard of the Spirit Lake Pluton. I just assumed, what do I know? I just assumed, even leading geology trips up here 30 years ago, oh, by the way, there's Rainier way in the distance. Can the camera handle that? It's hazy today. Looking north, you can perhaps see Rainier peeking out on the far distance there. Those aren't clouds. But this road, my point is, this road to Windy Ridge has lots of dramatic exposures of lavas and, I guess, granitic rocks that are tied to the Spirit Lake Pluton. Who knew? Not me. So we'll stop a few places where Russ and Don want us to stop, and we'll just get started thinking about this stuff. This is an introduction to this area for you and for me. Thank you. Okay. You don't see a blown up cone that often, so it is quite impressive, I have to say. You're looking south to Mount Saint Helens itself, and then you're looking south on this road that heads to the Windy Pass viewpoint. We're kind of working our way north on the road, and I'm stopping wherever Russ and Don want us to stop. So here's an example of, I guess, all these exposures are roughly 20 million years old, not connected to the present cone. Looking east towards Mount Adams, quite hazy today, but there's Mount Adams. Another stratovolcano. Maybe I should come up here on a different day and get real nice shots when we don't have the haze, but that's Adams. And quite an impressive exposure here of some rhyolite. Let's bang on it real quick in case you haven't seen a rhyolite before. I'm guessing most of you have. But I think these are the very volcanics that Mike and his team are going to want to work with and ask, is this related to the Spirit Lake Pluton? What is the new age for this stuff, since Mike has these abilities? All right, well, let's read first. Rock pit in banded dacite or rhyolite. This rock, probably dome or small intrusion, forms crudely pyramidal peak on Windy Ridge. Like most silicic volcanic rocks in the area, it's fine-grained, devitrified, nearly apheric, meaning it hardly has any crystals to look at, except for some scarce albatized feldspar phenocrysts and presumably altered, pervasively altered. Conspicuous limonitic stains. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it almost looks like petrified wood. But it's not. Oh, interesting. Yeah. So, most of these rocks have not been analyzed age-wise to the precision that Mike Eddy can get them. But the other folks on Mike's team have expertise that I'm still foggy on, but they will add their new analytical tools as well. Okay, so rhyolite / dacite dome. I'm just getting started, but I'm going to assume, until proven otherwise, that all of these outcrops on this road between Randall and between Randall and Windy Ridge are in the 20s. 21 million years old, 25 million years old. Ghost volcano rocks, in other words, not lavas that came out of Mount Saint Helens. You're looking at what used to be a cone. It used to be 1,300 feet taller up until May of 1980. And this road that was put in by the Forest Service, paved, still in pretty good shape, in the 80s, allows us to see some bedrock exposures in the vintage of the Spirit Lake Pluton. So here's another exposure. This time it's andesite, brecciated andesite, that looks a little different than the pink rhyolite that was just a mile up the road. So I don't know, but I'm guessing that the Spirit Lake Pluton team will be sampling a bunch of rocks just like this. Does it really look like an andesite? Weathered. It's good to, oh, here's some fresh stuff. Hiya! Hiya! Yeah, not much to look at. No hornblends. All right, let's keep going. We're just learning some basics about these outcrops. And then when I come with the project, I'll at least have my bearings. That's the thought. All right, where to next? Coming up in a little 0.6 of a mile, there's going to be some coarse lithic lapilli tuff. Contains angular class of strikingly banded dacite derived from plug dome. Rare place where a specific source for clastic debris can be identified. All right. That's at 2.4. We can do that. If this kind of road appeals to you and you want to approach Mount Saint Helens with a pretty low-key spot, I mean, this is what it's like in late July, which is kind of the high tourist season. I'm surprised we don't have a lot of traffic up here. You know, the west side of Saint Helens is far more heavily visited all year round, I think. And this road is not plowed during the winter time, and then when they finally open up the road, it's a nice spot that generally is low-key, but it's especially low-key here. So, I mean, if you come in after Labor Day, I think you're going to have the place to yourselves. And quite often we have crystal clear air, crystal clear skies for excellent viewing of Adams and Rainier and others. Oh, shit, what's our mile marker here? 2.4. Okay, it's coming up. Yeah, oh, big bump. Road's not perfect. So we have a mix of bedrock from 21 million years ago, I guess, and then pumice from 44 years ago. Not 44 million, 44 years ago. Let's get a block right here. So here's what the outcrop looks like. Yeah, it's kind of a dull thud. Why? Why is there a dull thud? Yeah, I don't think I'm excited. Sounded good. Doesn't look that good to me. Moving on. This is a beautiful correlation diagram that is already really making me happy as far as trying to piece together some of all these units in the Cascades. So it's a geologic time scale going from 50 million years ago until today. And these are organized by color. These are plutonic igneous rocks. These are volcanic igneous rocks. These are sedimentary units and volcaniclastic sedimentary units. And then some glacial deposits up there towards the top. So both in stratigraphic column form and in correlation unit form, there's a lot here. And you're like, let me get my hands on that map. Well, this is, I don't know if there must be a digital form somewhere. This was put out by the Washington Geological Survey in 1987, the first of 4 quadrants. This is the southwest quadrant of Washington. Geologic map GM-34, and this is sheet 2. I've never really sat down and looked at it, but I love it. And it goes along with this, which I've been using in Geology 101 lab for many years. I've got these laminated. There's student fingerprints all over these things. But I'll be getting a lot of use out of this because both the Goat Rocks Volcano Project, Hanishamlu, and the Spirit Lake Pluton project, Mike Eddy, they both show up in this southwestern quadrant, and I like this scale. So Portland, Oregon is here, and here's Mount Adams, active stratovolcano. Here's Mount Saint Helens, active stratovolcano. Here's Mount Rainier, active stratovolcano. Here's Olympia, the state capital of Washington, and Tacoma. And here's Ellensburg. And so what stands out? Well, there's a bunch of orange. And a bunch of orange is the volcanic rocks in the Cascades, ghost volcano locations. The reds are plutonic blotches. Here's the Spirit Lake Pluton. Come on, man, right there. With the green river carving right through the middle of it. And green, that might catches your eye, is the rim rock inlier, exotic terrains that are somehow exposed in a place that there should be thick piles of Cascade lavas, more than 46 million years of this stuff. Somehow we do have this fruitcake peeking out from beneath the entire stack. And then more exotic terrains up towards Ellensburg. So, do I know that much about southwestern Washington geology? The answer is no. But that's what we're doing today, tomorrow, next week, next month, and so on. Okay, this might be it. I mean, I just wanted to lay eyes on at least a portion of the Spirit Lake Pluton. And Spirit Lake is just over the ridge, but this is just a nondescript diorite, according to the field guide, right next to the road. Let's lay eyes on the Spirit Lake Pluton for the first time, you and I, at least a portion of it. Oh yeah. And we can probably just wrap this video up. Amongst the 1980 pumice, diorite, which is a plutonic igneous rock. Oh, listen to that. Hi-ya. Oh, I like it. Yeah. Focus. You're like, just looks like a regular granite to me. Well, it's got a little bit more black mineral content. It's a diorite. It's not a tonalite or a granite. But this, among many other outcrops over the next couple of summers, will be heavily sampled and studied by Michael Eddy and his team. I'm looking forward to meeting the other professors on the team, learning how to pronounce their name, learning their backstory, and so on. I just fell on my rear in a soft cushion of pumice. And so we'll finish this video by going back to Whitey and looking over Whitey to a still rather impressive reminder of the otherworldly power that took place here on early Sunday, May 18th, 1980. And even though there's been 44 years of tree growth and recovery of biology in this area to make it look not quite as otherworldly and lunar and dusty and gray, so that strikes me, having not been up here for 30 plus years. But it's these trees, these dead trees, these logs. And if you didn't know any better, you would say, hey, would some landscaping firm come in here and lay these logs down perfectly parallel to each other on that ridge? And of course the answer is no. There were no green trees on May 19th. Everything was gray, ashy, dusty, and the force of the blast from the eruption of Mount Saint Helens volcano killed those trees and laid them down away from us as that pyroclastic flow went up and over this and many other ridges. David Johnston and others being killed during that event. So sad. So if we're looking for hope and recovery, all these guys, all those trees, younger than 44 years old, and just out of the corner of my eye, I can see more of the Spirit Lake pluton. Oh, even right here. Let's finish with one more look at this rather large pluton, which has many different sections within it. It's not just a homogeneous Mount Stewart type of a thing. And now that I say that, I know Mount Stewart is not homogeneous either, thanks to the work of Bob Miller and others. Come on. Oh, Spirit Lake pluton is hard, I'll give it that. Oh yeah, okay. Well, is this like a gabbro here? Come on, man. Why did Michael Eddy and his team pick the Spirit Lake pluton? That needs to be addressed. I think I need to do an interview with Mike. And he and his grad student Rachel Miller will be here this summer. Sorry, the next week. And I will not be around to film them, but they're going to be up perhaps along this road collecting their first round of samples. Let me flip you around and say goodbye. So it's nice to be out here with you again. This is kind of a throwback to 2020 when I was out learning a bunch of stuff myself during the lockdown. It's fun to learn new things. And you and I, hopefully, can kind of learn together with these field videos. And as I read more and more papers from the South Cascades in Washington, I will share my discoveries with you. And some of you are way ahead of me. I got some catching up to do. This is all in the name of learning new things in the Cascades to prepare for the Cascade volcanoes A to Z starting in November of 2024. Goodbye, Mount Saint Helens, and goodbye, dear viewer.